What's happening? Daniel here. In this video, I wanted to talk to you about how I actually became a professional photographer. I want to tell you my story because a lot of people don't actually know this, but I have transitioned out of a 9-to-5 job at Hewlett Packard being an IT company, and into professional photography over time. So the reason I'm making this video is because quite often people make comments on my Instagram or when I meet them for the first time and they say that I was born a naturally talented photographer. And quite honestly, this just isn't the truth. Photography is not something that runs in my family at all. My dad is now retired, but was a telecommunications engineer. My mum is a teacher. I never studied photography at school. I never went to university for photography. Photography for me has always just been something that I've loved doing, something that's been effortless, and something that I've just spent a lot of time on. So my story is I went from school straight to university. I was studying there for 5 years. I was studying computer systems engineering, and business admin. And from there, I went straight into a 9-to-5 job at Hewlett Packard. So I don't know if you guys remember the days of photography before it became digital, but when I was at school, it seemed like a very slow process. And it seemed like photography with the darkroom and with film, it was something that you really needed to invest a lot of your time into to be able to learn it. The process of taking images on film, on 35mm film, putting them in the darkroom, processing them with chemicals, and then analyzing your images from there was super slow. And it was something that I always avoided because I felt like it was just going to be a huge investment in my time. So obviously this is quite different now. I'll get to that in a minute. But for me, how it started was when I was working at Hewlett Packard, I bought my first digital camera, saved up $2,500. It was a Canon 350D and a 17-85 zoom lens. And at that point in my life, I'd actually never even left Australia. I'd never left the country, never done any traveling. And I decided to quit my job and I moved to Brazil, where in Brazil, I was teaching English, living with a family, and also traveling at that point in my life. So I was traveling around Brazil, South America, Central America, North America, Europe, and this whole time I was just taking photographs. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't shooting in manual mode. I wasn't shooting in RAW. I didn't know what RAW was. It got to a point around 2006, 2007. I was living in London at this point, again, working for another IT company. And this is where I discovered Lightroom. So Adobe Lightroom, if for those of you that don't know, Adobe Lightroom allows you to manage and mainly develop your digital photographs. And this for me was a huge turning point because I was always of the impression, keep in mind, I had traveled for 8 months taking photographs in JPEG mode and I had tens of thousands of photographs from around the world. I didn't realize that digital photographs still need to be developed. And even though I was shooting in JPEG mode, I discovered Lightroom and I saw the potential of being able to develop your own photographs on your computer. So referring back to the film days, this meant that I didn't have to learn about the darkroom. I didn't have to go and create a darkroom in my house and learn about the chemicals and developing my film. I could do all of this stuff on my laptop, and the process of taking a photograph, developing it, studying it, and working out where you went wrong and where you can improve using the analysis that you've just made of your own photographs, because you can do that so quickly, that process of taking a photograph, developing it, understanding what mistakes you've made, let's call them, and then applying those learnings next time in the field, it just allowed me to learn about photography very quickly. So for me, once I had discovered Lightroom, it was kind of self-motivational. made me want to take more photographs. So I was living in London. I did some more traveling, eventually came back to Australia, and I thought to myself, do I really want to be sitting in a cubicle working a 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life? And do I want to give this photography thing a go? Because it was something, honestly, like I said before, it was never effort for me. Taking photographs was always something that was just super fun. And I wanted to see if I could make money from it. So what I'd done is I created a website with all of my travel photographs. So I'd gone through my 100,000 odd travel photographs from that time of my life. And I'd thrown up a portfolio website, and I simply put a post out on Facebook at the time to see if anyone would be interested in having me photograph their wedding. So the focus of my portfolio website was definitely on people. So I hadn't photographed any weddings at that point, but I did have a lot of people photography, and I was lucky at that point in time, and this is still true today, that wedding photography, the documentary style of wedding photography, lends itself very well to travel photography. So if you look at any of my wedding photographs now, you'll notice that it's as if I'm just a third eye at the wedding, documenting what I see, and it's all about natural moments and capturing people as if I wasn't there, without my influence. Okay, and sort of that style of photography lended itself very well to wedding photography at the time. So I put a post out on Facebook. I asked my sister to put a post out on Facebook, and I said I will be willing to photograph somebody's wedding if they'll have me for $200. And I had 2 people come back to me and said, yep, $200, we're happy to do it. They weren't extremely fussy about their wedding photographs, which is a good thing because I had no experience. So I had these 2 weddings booked in, and before I did that, I contacted a friend of mine who knew a professional wedding photographer in Melbourne, and I contacted this guy, and I said to him, would it be okay if I just tagged along as a second shooter at one of your weddings so I can understand what's going on? And I'm super grateful for Paul, because he didn't know me from anybody. And he allowed me to come along, take photographs. I gave him all of those photographs, and I was able to use those photographs in my own portfolio to help generate sort of future work for myself. So once I'd photographed these 2 weddings on my own, which was extremely nerve-wracking, I had a bunch of other inquiries come from those weddings, because I asked those 2 clients, and I still do this today. I ask every one of my wedding clients this same question. I create them an online gallery of what I think are their best wedding images, and I just ask them to share that link on their Facebook page with their friends, and just so that I literally say to them, this has helped me in the past to generate future work for my business. I did that with these 2 weddings, and this got the ball rolling. So my wedding photography business went from 2 weddings to 15 weddings to 30 to 40 weddings a year for about 4 years. And that's exactly how my wedding photography business started. And what I did was, I obviously wasn't photographing $200 weddings for my entire life. Every time I got a new booking, I would put the price up by $400. And as my photographs got better as well, I will put my price up. So one thing I've always felt with wedding photography is that you definitely get what you pay for with wedding photography. As in, you can't start doing wedding photography having never photographed a wedding before and start charging $5,000 per wedding. It comes with experience. So that's pretty much how it started for me. And honestly, wedding photography has been my education in photography, because with wedding photography, you are forced to learn every style of photography. You're forced to do people photography, obviously, landscape photography, product photography. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned from wedding photography is that you need to know how to work with people. And understanding people is such a huge part of wedding photography, because especially when you're trying to create natural moments, where you're trying to capture people as they are without your influence as a photographer. And something I pride myself on with people photography is my communication skills with other people. So my ability to talk to other people in such a way that puts them at ease in front of the camera is such a big deal with photography, okay? And if you can tell that when you're looking at photographs of people, if you can tell that that person looks uncomfortable in front of the camera, then that's your responsibility as the photographer to work out a way using your personality and your communication skills to work out a way to put them at ease in front of the camera. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that photography is something that can be learnt. It's not like you're born with this talent. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are born with, you know, photography in the family and they're encouraged from day one, but that definitely wasn't me. My parents still to this day, maybe today, they're only just starting to support me as a photographer because I've taken the risky option here. I've taken the freelancer option. There's no job security with photography. And right now, my main source of income is wedding photography, fashion photography, and the photography school. So I guess the point of this video is just to explain to you that, you know, it's possible to learn photography. It's not something that, you know, you're born with. It can be, but don't write it off because you're not born with natural talent. For me, it's just come with practice. And to this day, I think I've taken 325,000 photographs when I have a look at my Lightroom catalog. It can be done. You just need to practice. And I know for me, one of the biggest turning points, honestly, was just learning post-production and learning Lightroom. That was like super motivational for me. So anyway, I'll end my story there. I think that's all I wanted to say. But thanks for watching. If you got through this whole thing, thank you very much for watching. And if you want to have a look at my photographs, like right now, one thing I forgot to throw in there was, in case you didn't know this, this elephant photograph behind me, which I took in Africa, was on the cover of National Geographic, and that has really helped my credibility as a photographer. So if you want to check out my work, www.danielbillsborough.com, and that's it from me. Thanks so much for watching.